Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So this week we're talking about foreclosures. So there's lots of articles out there talking about, foreclosures coming up and what we're kind of seeing. And I will say, not in our market. So no, we're not seeing them. Not that
No,
they're not
yeah,
out there. There'll always be a foreclosure here and there, but we're not seeing that rush. Like I
right.
think, some parts of California are seeing, Florida, Nevada, I think
Texas,
Yeah.
Texas.
Tennessee. Yeah.
So,
And we do
Mhm.
see, I haven't seen too a lot of job layoffs. People are losing their jobs, and, hopefully those things will get smoothed out more. So we don't see more foreclosures in the future, right? But
Mhm.
the time will tell, I guess. But right now
yes,
in our
I
market,
think
not really seeing much.
job layoffs, do make a difference. But in our market's so strong, being where we
Mhm.
are,
Hmm.
The Midwest.
Yeah.
yeah, if you did lose your job, because there's
Specifically,
been
which,
like
if you don't
over,
know, is southeastern Wisconsin, North Illinois. So, south of Milwaukee,
yeah,
north of
northeastern.
Chicago. We're in that bubble. People like to come here because, you know, it's the perfect mix of city and not a
Yeah.
city, right? Rural
Mhm.
area.
Yes. So,
Mhm.
and I thought about this, even like since COVID, since our market here has been like pretty strong, and you've
Mhm.
seen like very few foreclosures like come up on the market, very few. Like, let me
Mhm.
tell you, those fix and flip guys are starving right now.
Yeah.
It's just so
Yeah.
few and far between, where that was a huge chunk of our market pre-COVID after the crash.
Mhm.
But then when I see those, I'm like, why didn't they call somebody? I don't understand. So if you did lose your job, if you are struggling and you are in our market, if you think that there's no way you can get out from under this, that you don't have equity, maybe you've borrowed, maybe you have a home equity line of
Yeah.
credit, maybe you did a cash out refi, still bring an agent in. It's free. Do a market analysis.
Yeah.
Let's do a
No.
net sheet. Let's look at the numbers, because you might
Yeah.
be able to get your money out. So to me, it's just wild that people
Yeah.
would foreclose in a strong market. So, you know, let's
Well,
hope you're not in a bad
the
spot, but
and the banks always say, like, give your mortgage company a call and tell them if you're having hard times. Like, even with this government shutdown,
Yeah.
there everything that you logged into had something at the top of one of your bills, right?
right.
One of your accounts that
Yeah.
said, "Are you affected by this shutdown? We're here to help. Reach out to us and see what we can do to help you." It's no different if somebody loses a job and they need to speak to that. Just set up some kind of payment with them so you don't get
Yes,
into the
you can keep
position of
your home.
foreclosure.
And I would say too, if you're going to do like a loan modification with your mortgage company, make sure you're really reading that document. Read between the lines, because yes, you can set up a payment plan. Yes, it can get tacked onto the backside of that loan.
Yeah.
But I've had clients that have done that in the past, and then when we look, they're like, "Well, why do I owe all this money?" And I'm like, "Because you did a loan mod." And they're
Right.
like, "But my mortgage was only this much. Why is it so much bigger?" And there's just so many fees and things that maybe aren't
Interest owed.
up, yeah, maybe
Mm.
aren't up front, and not
Yeah.
that they're not telling you, you're not understanding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just be careful if you're going to do one of those, have somebody else take a look at it too with you. Um, and then if you're a buyer looking for foreclosures, this is not the market. So we get a lot on Zillow. It says like pre-foreclosure. So I get a lot of those leads like, "Oh, can
Yeah.
you find more info about this?" And I'm like, "No, because it's not for sale." I can look up the history and see if there was a Liz pendants filed, which is kind of like the tipping point of the foreclosure. So they're
Mhm.
filing with the court. And I mean, it could be years before
Yeah.
this comes on the market. So
Right.
a pre-foreclosure is not something to get your hopes up and it's an algorithm. They slap these prices on to get these buyers excited. If you
Right.
are interested in buying foreclosures, in our market, there are some, and they're probably not going to be in the best area, and they're definitely
Mhm.
not in the best condition. And typically these are sold at auction. So every county will have on their website, they have everything that's coming up to auction. whether it's a foreclosure or they're taking a property back because of taxes,
Mhm.
and it'll have the minimum bid. But keep in mind with these, it needs to be, you have to have a
Cash.
percentage due day of cash. And then the rest is due, I think, in 20 or 30 days. You do not get any inspections. You don't get to go on the property before you buy it. People could be living there. So then you have to
Oh.
deal with that. So there's a lot of
Title,
things.
income. Yes. They have to
Yep.
Yeah,
research
there could
title on
be.
their own, right?
Yeah. So you are basically saying, I'm going to take this no matter what. So you could get title back, and there's, $100,000 worth of liens on it. So it's just, if it's something you're interested in, don't shy away from it if you have the cash, but find
Right.
somebody that has done these before, find somebody that, you can kind of lean on. I'm sure there's people online offering, classes and things. So that's pretty much the only way you're going to get a foreclosure
Yeah, there's
around
investment
here.
groups out there that they have meetups all over the place. So you could always jump into some investment group meetup just to
Yeah.
dip your toe in and really understand that process. But it's
Yeah.
more for a seasoned individual to
And
jump
make
into
sure you
something
got some
like
money
that.
just
And then
saving aside in case there is some issues.
as a
Yeah.
consumer, ultimately, you have to understand that nationwide markets are completely different. And right now, we're blessed in the Midwest and typically have been that we have solid markets. They can change on a dime. And you just have to understand that you can't go into buying a house and saying, well, it's been on the market for 40 days. So I'm going to offer them $30,000 less. You have to lean into your real estate agent. That's what they're there for, to help guide you through these different markets.
Correct. And I would say too, if you are somebody that maybe foreclosure is kind of looming in the, near or distant future because of a job loss or a hard time, definitely talk to an agent. And
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of wholesale calls lately, which is like
Yeah.
really weird. And what wholesale real estate is basically, I'm going to come to you as the seller because you have, whether it's a rundown house, it's a distressed property in some way, or somehow I find out that you need help financially, or you call me. These are those 1-800 number signs that we see on every street corner. We buy ugly houses, da 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 da. So these are wholesale. So what they're going to do is say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'll pay you $20,000. And to a lot of people, $20,000 in cash to get out from under something is a huge stress relief. So they go with that immediate gratification and they sign with them and say, yes. What that wholesaler does is call me as a licensed real estate agent, and wholesalers don't have access to the MLS. And they say, hey, we will pay you full commission. They will pay the full buyer's commission too. So sometimes 5 to 6%, depending on where you're at. And they want me to list it so that they can make a profit. So when they're giving you 20, they're turning around and selling it for 100. So, this is why it's important to talk to real estate agents that are local to your market, not Joe Blow on the phone. And don't, even in our market, still pretty fast. So we can sometimes even still deliver that easy, quick gratification of getting out from under your house and getting a check. So, it's unfortunate that people do this, and it blows my mind. I just had one that was a lot, and they bought it for 1,500. They're under contract with the seller for 1,500. I think we could sell it for 10. And then they're going to pay a couple thousand in commission, but they're still going to make way more than the 1,500 they're giving to the seller.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Wow.
And you brought up a really good point, Danielle, because we have to remember that people's homes have appreciated so much over the past couple of years that if you do find yourself in trouble, don't get yourself into a situation of foreclosure. Like she said, reach out to the agent, because you could sell and pick up all that equity, which would probably fix a lot of if you have a lot of debt, and find a different house or rent for a year. I don't know, but you don't want to lose that equity. So sell potentially
right.
as a
Or the other thing is our rental
solution.
market is amazingly strong. So Like, I think this is what you meant. So like, if you have a friend or family member that maybe you can move back home with mom and dad and rent out your place for double what your mortgage payment is, just to kind of stockpile some money. So rent it out for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And Zillow's a great place to do that. As much as I hate to give Zillow a plug, for
I
rentals,
know.
they're good. You can
Yeah.
pay, it's not a lot. They'll host your rental site. You can do this without an agent. There's a link on there. The potential tenant fills out their application. They pay for their credit check. They do everything. And Zillow sends you an email with the evaluation of the person. So, and it's very thorough. So, you know, that's always something you can do too. So definitely do not call these
careful with
1-800
that.
numbers. Yeah.
Depending on how long you're in the property, be careful with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. I think that sums it up. So we'll see you. I don't know what we're talking about next week, but we'll see you next week.
All right.
Sellers getting ready to sell is next week.
Oh yeah. Getting ready to sell this time of year.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
See you next week.